welcome to the stream. Appreciate you hanging out and being here. Looks like Doc is the only one who's left a comment, and he left the comment third. So it also seems like Doc is the person who voted not that interested to watching Spider-Man Brand New Day. And I watched it. I'm not really going for spoilers. It's only been out for what? It's been in theaters for 3-ish days, maybe 3.5 days, however they, count it. So I'm not looking to spoil the whole movie or anything like that. But I enjoyed it. It's been a long time since I went to the theater. I believe the last time that I went to the theater was Deadpool and Wolverine, and the time before that was Spider-Man No Way Home. So Spider-Man is basically the main reason I go to the theater. I think I watched the Hobbit movies, the Spider-Man movies, and then like Captain America, Avengers, Endgame, things like that. So it's pretty much the limit of my movie going for the most part. So for me, I had it in theaters. I enjoyed it. I thought it was some fun action. I love Spider-Man. So just another Spider-Man movie that was, as far as I'm concerned, a good Spider-Man movie. I definitely enjoyed it. Doc says, nice shirt. Thank you. Had this one for a little while. I'm trying to recall exactly where I got or who I got it from. I believe it was a gift, maybe a birthday gift from a family member. But I actually have a pretty cool kind of symbiote suit style shirt, but it's a little bit, it's not the most comfortable fabric, and it kind of traps heat, so I decided not to wear that one. What's up? We got Tristan coming, dropping into the chat. What's up? Thanks for hanging out. Tristan says, just went to see Brand New Day. Nice. Heck yeah. Let's see. Did you enjoy it? I would say it was not as good for me as No Way Home. I felt like No Way Home did so much work. It tied together the franchises. I guess it's one technically, but the separate Spider-Man iterations so well, so thoroughly together. It was just an impressive feat. It was excellent. I loved it. It's the number one Spider-Man movie for me, but only because it has all of the other movies before it. So it really functions well with everything. It's not just a great movie in its own right if you haven't actually seen any of the other Spider-Man films. I feel like Brand New Day does a pretty good job of continuing the story without dropping or fumbling what was put together by No Way Home. But that's just me. I've definitely seen some perspectives, and you know how it is. There's a Marvel movie or show, every 3 months that something else is coming out or dropping. Some of them have been flopping. Some of the Sony Spider-Man adjacent movies have been terrible. Certain MCU movies have been just so poorly received, probably for good reason, and some have been hits. So you just don't know. There have been so many. It continues to be this slow journey through Disney's Marvel cinematic universe, and to some this could just be like one more dot in that journey. And I feel like that's kind of fair if you have some of that Marvel fatigue, or just it isn't exactly what you care the most about when you're watching movies. Totally fair. As for me, I have watched very little since Endgame as far as the MCU. So I really haven't been keeping up with things. I watched one trailer for Brand New Day and ignored as much as I possibly could. I avoided spoilers. So I really went in just to watch a Spider-Man movie. And from my point of view, I think that was a good way to do it, because I just thoroughly enjoyed how it was for Peter Parker, for Spider-Man. And that was a great moviegoer experience. I thought the theater, the visuals, the action, everything on screen was pretty great, and I very much enjoyed it. So I feel like that's a good way to go about enjoying the movie if you're thinking about going. Martin says hi. Thanks for hopping on, Martin. S says, hey all, it's becoming an unhealthy habit for me to be awake at the time of these live streams. And for any of you who don't know, S is over in Europe, so I believe it's just after midnight right now, if I understand correctly, or even pushing 1 a.m. Doc says, "Hey Martin S, gotta go." Doc says that he has to go in an hour and get to bed himself. Yes, but to be fair, you're going to bed at an early time for an early morning working in the US, and S is going to go to bed in the middle of the night in Europe. The doc says, what was it like 2016, but has anyone seen Last Flag Flying? No, I haven't seen it. S says 2 a.m. Okay, I was another hour off. It's 2 a.m. Yeah, that's an interesting time to be awake. Not my recommended best time to hang out in a live stream and go to bed after an hour, but at the same time, you're hanging out in my live stream, so thumbs up, stay here, just hang out, don't fall asleep. If you do, leave your phone on. I'm just kidding. Hopefully you do get some good sleep though. I do hope so. Doc says got to get up at 4. Usually I wake up at 3. Ew. No thanks. Tristan says, what is the furthest throw that you ever did? Oh, interesting question. So traditionally, I tend to kind of only count my distances on flat ground. That's really when I measure most of my throws to see, the max distance that I can throw. And 440 feet is the furthest that I've thrown on flat ground. But I played toboggan, and I also have a course near where I grew up in my hometown of Jackson, Michigan. So 2 courses in Michigan, both of them with pretty significant, sizable hills. And one of the furthest throws I've ever thrown topped out just over 500 feet. I threw this D2 Air, and if you know anything about Air discs, they're kind of like Blizzard plastic. They're lightweight discs, so lighter than it's supposed to be. Well, this thing is actually pretty flippy. So I threw this at a basket, and I ended up about 40 degrees off to the right in the parking lot, almost hit my own car. Thankfully, I didn't hit anybody else's car, but I was just a few feet from my car in the middle of this parking lot, 500 and some feet away. This was the furthest I've thrown an out of control shot. I stopped throwing this disc soon after. Did not stay in the bag for very long after that moment. Also in Michigan at Toboggan, I threw just over 550 feet on hole 3 downhill. Par 4, it's 900 feet to the pin, and I was able to go past the pin on my second shot. So my tee shot down that hill, it is a toboggan slope. It went pretty far. I was pretty happy with that one. Definitely a big throw. Threw a couple of 500-foot shots on hole 1. Also a huge downhill, but I was throwing turnovers with Braves in that instance. Those were pretty fun. Doc says, good question for Brad. I'm thinking 420 feet. Yeah, just over that on flat ground. But when you're talking about hills, I've thrown some further shots for sure. Doc says 20 feet off, not bad. Brad, get to throw any Nerf in the rain? Nope, haven't gone out in the rain. Hasn't really. It's just kind of stormed in the evenings and kind of night. But it's supposed to rain on and off all week, so I'm sure that I'll get out there at a time where it's raining. But I actually can't fully announce it yet, but I have a competition coming up, and I think after tomorrow, or maybe it is Tuesday, I'll be able to fully announce everything and kind of clue in the audience to what's going to be going on. But I'll be having a type of disc golf competition coming up in just over a week, and I've been training for it. I've been practicing. So I have been working on not normal, I guess. I haven't been playing through a course and counting my score in a little while. So I'll tell you more about that later. I'll fill you guys in. But I haven't really thrown the Nerf discs too much. Actually, the last time that I threw the last time I threw a Nerf disc was on a 200-foot hyzer, just straight spike hyzer up in the air, and this thing swung into the basket and just bounced off the chains. Like, it didn't even try to stay in the basket. It came in at a 45-degree angle and just bounced straight off. just didn't even attempt to stay in the basket. I'm not even sure if it caught the cage on the way over the cage or if it just popped straight over it. I didn't film it. I had two witnesses, and both of them were like, we can't believe that thing just rebounded off of the chains. Of course, it is the Nerf disc. The Nerf discs are very lightweight, about 100 grams, and they just don't have that same level of mass to them to when they do hit the chains, that they kind of push into the chains and make the chains catch the disc, or usually catch the disc. No, it just bounced off the chains. So I'm not complaining. It was very funny. I wish I had filmed it just so I could show you guys, but it was quite an experience, and that was a couple days ago. But no, haven't thrown them in the rain. We'll get there eventually. Antonio says, "Hola, bro." Thanks for hopping on, Antonio. Jack says, "Love Prodigy Air Discs, Crazy Dome. They're pretty fun. I've been enjoying the domier discs. I have a few that kind of popped up. I opened up a mystery box as well as some discs that I had picked out myself, and I haven't tried it yet. But the Twin Swords is actually pretty dummy as well. But the Prodigy Air, they have some pretty fun ones. I have also right next to it Prodigy X4. Now this is supposed to be flippy, not nearly so dummy, and this has been a pretty good disc, but I just can't keep control over it like I used to. I think it got flippier and I got higher arm speed. The D2 Air is supposed to be overstable. It is a 13.6 negative half 3. It's supposed to be kind of similar to a Rive sort of thing. Yeah, it's the same thing as a flippy driver. It's one of the flippiest discs that I have. But I do have a pretty good stack off screen here. If you haven't watched it, it was a, I don't know, 15-minute video where I just kind of open up a giant box of Infinite discs, and I got myself 26 discs from Infinite, including the Nerf discs, driver, mid-range, and putter, which I've been testing out. Haven't really gotten around to filming a disc review at all for the Nerf discs just yet, but I have a conglomerate, a really wide range of discs that kind of came in with a mystery set and discs that I had never heard of, companies that I had never heard of. So several times throughout the video, you'll hear me be like, "Oh, I really don't know what this is. I don't know what it's supposed to do." But I identified as many of them as I could and put the flight numbers on the screen. So if you feel like checking out that video, go for it. I think it's called like I opened up unboxing Infinite discs or something, or 26 Infinite discs, something like that. Doc says, competition, Brad is going out for Mr. South Carolina pageant. Good luck. Yeah, because that's a disc golf related. Sure. Doc says, mystery box was fun. Seen a lot of brands I was familiar with at discount discs. Yeah, there are so many brands that I'm not familiar with. But yeah, you might be seeing with like discount discs and places like that. But for me, it was a surprise. A lot of the discs were a surprise. I think I got, let's see, if I remember correctly, I ordered right around 10 discs for myself or for like a friend. And then I think it was a 15 stack of mystery discs. So half or most of the discs that I kind of like opened up were a complete surprise to me, where I just wasn't expecting it. Something like that, but at least 10. As says, if you went for a holiday trip, would it include playing disc golf, or is it too everyday thing to do on a holiday? Generally speaking, if I am doing some type of holiday trip or a vacation, I am probably going to play disc golf at some point because I'm going to be near a course that I've never played before. So any type of travel that I really kind of engage in, I tend to think wherever I am, I wonder what the nearest disc golf courses are. I wonder if there's a cool course that I can go play. So I will tend to try to go not out of my way, but take advantage of being somewhere new and test out the disc golf courses or course in that area. So most of the time for a trip, I'm still taking my disc golf stuff and I'm planning to film somewhere new. That really is kind of enjoyable for me. I wouldn't say that it's kind of an everyday thing to such an extent that I wouldn't do that. Also, generally, I'm not doing too much editing on my trips. I'm mostly just filming. So it's a lot less work and a lot more rest than kind of the everyday where, I have my job and then I'm also either filming or editing or both, or putting together a couple of YouTube shorts, which just is kind of like a constant thing. Generally, on my trips, I try to have YouTube shorts planned out ahead of time and scheduled so that while I'm on my vacation, I might play and film a little bit, but I'm not going through and editing. I'm not posting. Just kind of replying to some comments every couple days. Doc says, as a channel member, can I nominate and get the Neptune disc closer to the front of the line for you to try? Good question. I would say, sure, why not? I'll actually do that right now. I'll grab it from the stack. I believe I have it here. Maybe. There you are, buddy. So, come on. One of the discs that I got in my mystery pack is the Neptune Nautilus. I like the flight numbers of this. I'm curious if it's going to be a more of an overstable mid-range, as it has a 0.2. That could kind of fly like my Taco, which is pretty overstable. It's definitely pulling left as I throw it. Or it could fly kind of more like the Mako 3, where it's just pretty much supposed to be a straight shot. I'm very curious. I don't really know exactly how it's going to fly, but I'd like to find out. Maybe it'll be a bit of a surprise to me. So sure, I'll put that near the top of the stack. Of course, the Nerf discs were going to be at the top of the stack, and I've already tested those out. But I think, other than that, I've just thrown the Mighty. I've only thrown it twice. I barely have tested it out because I've been focused on other things recently, disc golf. But yes. Doc says, yes, for me, for sure. Wouldn't you? Play while you're on a trip. Yeah. And S says, Doc, yes, I have gone for disc golf holiday on purpose to visit new disc golf courses. Yeah, there's something fun to that. I know a lot of people will do that. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina for a year, and I would run into people on the local courses every once in a while who were specifically there to play disc golf. They're like, hey, I'm in town. I'm trying to play as many courses around Charlotte as I can and just enjoy it. My buddy and I traveled, or whatever. Some people will be like, I traveled with my wife and he traveled with his wife and they're going out to do this and we're going disc golfing. It's just kind of a fun thing. People are taking disc golf vacations. It's kind of cool to see it. So I saw that a lot with people going to Charlotte. I would say I tend not to do a disc golf vacation. I would more likely take a trip to compete in a disc golf tournament, and therefore it wouldn't really be as much of a disc golf like vacation. It'd be a competitive trip where I would be playing disc golf in a new place. And other than that, I tend to visit family or friends and play disc golf around where they are. Doc says, S, are you also single? LOL. And S says, yes. Yeah, definitely that you have a higher element of freedom, when you are single. But, I would say for myself that even just now, having been married for just over a month, there have been times we've been on a bit of a trip and I'm interested in playing disc golf course and make that happen. That's no problem. My brother is a school teacher, and in the summer he gets in a ton of disc golf. He can play a lot, usually like right after school. He can hit a course and play. So he's pretty regularly competing and practicing disc golf, but he'll regularly take a trip, with the wife and play some disc golf. So he's always out on the course. Doesn't let anything stop him. Doc says, love that Neptune disc, but our playing styles are different. Yeah, our playing styles are different. Yes, they are. I don't know how much that really impacts whether or not a disc is good, but yeah, I'm interested to try it out. I mean, would you say, Doc, that it's an overstable disc for you, or does it fly pretty straight? Doc says that the missus might be a fan of it if Brad isn't. We'll see. Dice says over half of people are just not interested in Spider-Man. Yeah, it just goes that way. It's fine. It's still a breaking some, I don't know if it's technically breaking box office records. I know the trailer broke some records with the number of views in whatever period of time, and the box office success is certainly there. But that doesn't mean that most people are gonna go and watch the movie, and that's totally fair. I'm sure if I did the same poll about the Odyssey, we'd have an even greater amount of people that are just like, I'm just not gonna go see it. And it's one of the big movies of the year, one of the big three big movies of the year. But I mean, to be fair, I would be in that category. I have nothing against the idea of watching the movie, The Odyssey, but I'm not going to go see it in theaters. Like I just tend not to be a watch in theaters person. So generally speaking, I'm just not. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, I watched Brand New Day. Yeah, yeah, it was yesterday, and then the most recent film and that I've watched in theaters before that was Deadpool and Wolverine, and before that, Spider-Man: No Way Home. So apparently, I watch a movie in theaters every 2 years, and that's about the track record that I have. So I'm just not like prioritizing watching movies in theaters. Like I have, whatever streaming service, and I tend to catch movies on there after they've been out for a little while. And a lot of times you can rent it for like $4 or $3. Uh, or you can buy it for a couple more dollars, something like that. So I tend to watch movies after they've been out for a while. I don't tend to not need, but like feel a need to go and watch it in theaters immediately. But of course, I will make some exceptions, and Spider-Man is that exception for me. Any Spider-Man movie that comes out, I'm going to see it pretty much as quickly as I possibly can. So I can't wait. Doc says, "Yep, Dice, but I am a Zendaya fan." Doc says, "All Brad has to do is find a bookstore near the course that he wants to visit." LOL. Well, I mean, it's interesting that you put it that way, because the problem with that is I want to go to the bookstore too. So instead, what we end up doing is both going to the bookstore and then both going to play disc golf and enjoying both. Have a good time with it. S says, "Have to comment that buddies that come with me to disc golf holidays are all not single." There you go. I mean, I have seen. I think that's very common. I don't think that only people who are single can go take a trip and just play disc golf. A lot of married guys will do that for sure. And I even know I have a friend in the Charlotte area that's got several kids, and it's he loves his family, takes care of his family, and every once in a while he'll go travel somewhere to compete or to play disc golf. Dice has never. Oh. Odd Golf says, "Howdy, thanks for hopping on Odd Golf." Shout out to the Odd Golf channel. If you haven't checked out some of the fun disc golf compilation videos, you should definitely do that. I think so far I've been in each of them, so you'll enjoy seeing me when I pop up on the screen. I'm usually in the first couple of clips, I think, in most of them. And I want to say this last one was I feel like one of my better ones, one of the better clips that I've submitted so far. Doc says, "For the Nautilus, pretty straight, slightly understable." Well, that's interesting, because I do like a flippy mid-range, so I might actually really like it if it's flippy for me. Doc has been watching your videos because of Brad. They are good. Hey, look at that. Doc has been watching the Odd Golf videos. Thank you, Doc. Really appreciate you showing up and supporting. What a pal. Doc says, "Now, if you ask who's excited for Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, I couldn't imagine less than 100% saying yes." The Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Very interesting. Jack says, "Thinking of watching tonight. How did the movie feel? Long, or do you wish it was longer?" Ooh, that's an excellent question. I felt, because I love Spider-Man, I felt like it could have been another like 15 or 20 minutes, and I don't want to spoil anything. I feel like the extra 15 or 20 minutes could have been like right past half, where they could have further developed something, for about 15 more minutes. And then the film, I feel like, would have been perfect. Somebody said like it was super long, but it was, just over 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 20 minutes. I don't know. My perception of a long movie is a little bit off, because I have watched all 3 extended editions of The Lord of the Rings in the same day. So my perception of a long movie is well over 3 hours. Runtime. 2 hours and 25 minutes. So I don't know. I couldn't tell you, even as far as just movies I've watched in the theaters, 3 of them were The Hobbit. And I had said, I don't tend to watch a lot of movies in the theaters. So movies that are under 3 hours, they don't feel to me like they're super duper long. I would say, yeah, 15 more minutes I think would have felt perfect. But somebody else, who maybe the guy sitting off to my right, was thinking, well, that was great, but man, was it long? I have no idea. But that's what I would say. I definitely enjoyed it. My perspective is that if you have watched everything Marvel and you're getting a little bit kind of tired of keeping up, then if that's kind of your perspective, why do I keep saying perception instead of perspective? Similar but different. If your perspective kind of going into it is an MCU perspective, I think there's a lot that you'll kind of catch in the movie that's, the MCU stuff, like they're introducing or setting up or doing this or that. But if you go into it just going to watch a Spider-Man movie, I think that you're going to find it very fun, satisfying, um, entertaining, good action Spider-Man movie. I think that's what you're going to find. I think it's good stuff. I think you'll like it. If you're really into Marvel or tired of too much Marvel, then you might kind of watch it and go, it was fine. And I get that perspective. I don't have that perspective because I haven't kept up with everything. I'm not kind of fatigued, I guess, by the MCU. I'm just there for Spider-Man. I had a great time. Odd Golf says, thanks, Doc. Brad is the absolute best. Oh, that's nice. Doc says, it wouldn't go that far. Doc says, Dice, did you hear the news? Brad is going Mr. South Carolina pageant. No, that's Doc actively spreading wrong rumors on purpose. No. I basically said that I have a disc golf competition. It's not a tournament, but a competition coming up, and I'm not allowed to fully announce it yet. I think in the next 2 days I can actually fully announce it. But if you guys, are somewhat, curious about it, you can check out Disc Respect on Instagram, and you'll kind of get a better picture of what's going to be happening. And all I was saying was that I've been practicing for that. I've been kind of training for that competition more so than testing out my stack of new discs or doing a disc review of the Nerf discs. I've been kind of practicing for that because that's coming up soon. So that's what I've been up to. S says, when's Brad's next long video to be published other than Livestream? Technically speaking, I published a long form video where I unboxed my discs, the 26 discs. I know that doesn't really count. For me, it was kind of a step back into getting the edit done for a longer video. So I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks to drop my next actual long form video of me playing disc golf. And then after that, do a Nerf disc review. So hopefully 2 videos in the next 3 weeks coming, actual full length, long form videos to the channel. I know it's a surprise. Hopefully, yeah, things will be kind of back in a bit of a normal swing for getting longer form videos edited. I have a lot filmed, and I even have, I have a 2 terabyte hard drive here, and this is mostly, I think, just over half full of videos that I have edited or that I have yet to edit. So I just have a bunch of disc golf footage on this thing. I have a lot, maybe 9 long form videos that I have filmed but not edited yet. So goodness, I need to get on some things. I have more that I want to film and get out. I'd love to do a disc review on the Mighty. I'd love to do a disc review on some of these mystery discs. I have other stuff that has been kind of bouncing around in the back of my mind. So I've got stuff hopefully coming very soon. Hopefully. Dice says, "Ooh, a pageant." Doc says, "We'll have to watch them legs though." Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Not all it's cracked up to be. Tried it out. It's fine. Dice says, "Finally, DLB could never win a pageant. CLB has a chance." I don't know. I don't know what that stands for. What am I missing? Hopefully, nothing inappropriate. Doc says waiting for the new animated Batman movie. Ah, interesting. I haven't heard. I don't really like truly keep up too much with you know movies or especially animated movies. I tend to be kind of just out of the loop. I actually really should catch up to the Spider-Verse movies. The first one, fantastic. Haven't watched anything since. I don't know if there's one or two since then. I know that we had Nicolas Cage, Spider-Man Noir. I know that we had that. Haven't seen it either. So definitely haven't been up with everything. And like a new animated Batman movie, totally out of the loop. I'm sure it'll be great though. I'm sure it'll be great. Odd Golf says, I understand Tom Holland has too many coals on the fire, but still pretty upset that Spidey won't be in Doomsday, especially since he was there for the Thanos movies. Yeah, I didn't even know. Well, I kind of knew that. I'd heard that rumor, but I heard that today in like YouTube comments that I was reading. But there's an element there to where I'm like part of me says I enjoy his affiliation and involvement in the MCU, but I also just love a good Spider-Man movie. So if he stays in New York City and handles the criminals and supervillains of New York City and has like I've not been a huge comic book fan or like been a reader of comic books, but I'm aware actually I got a free comic book for going to the movie. There was actually guys dressed up as Spider-Man, and they were handing out comic books for free. So I grabbed this thing, and just this is a great example. Just flipping through it, I haven't read through the whole thing yet, but Spider-Man is constantly having somebody come in, a superhero, an anti-hero, and they're teaming up. They're teaming up against the Sinister Six or whoever. So it's like this constant and consistent, like Spider-Man is handling things and then a big threat comes out of nowhere and then this hero shows up and then they team up and take it down together. Very common. So in that regard, I feel like that is a very strong position for Spider-Man to take in the MCU, is to, generally speaking, really take on the New York City friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Big threats will come up, but it's like New York City centered. It's Spider-Man centered. Versus, which I'm not opposed to, more overlap, but versus, Spider-Man being at the center of, Infinity War or Endgame. And I'm not saying he was. I'm saying instead of something like that idea, or Doomsday. So would I like to see him? I'll probably watch Doomsday. Probably more so because it will be a date more so than I'm gonna go watch Doomsday. I will enjoy it, but like I said, I tend not to be like go watch it in theaters. But I'm sure that we'll go see and enjoy watching Doomsday. Well, I think while I'm sitting in the theater, I wish that Spider-Man was in this. Probably, yeah. But I think I'm very content if they focus on making good Spider-Man movies, and if they do that, they keep them in New York City for the most part. Sounds good to me. I'll enjoy it. Doc says, another reason I prefer animated movies, if an actress doesn't want to be in a movie, you just get a new voice actor. Yeah, I wouldn't. I would never. Well, I don't prefer animated movies, for the most part. I like live action, but I can understand that being a perk if you are appreciating animated movies and you are able to. That I can see that. I think you get that past a lot of people, but some people will still be like, this is not the same. It's not the same voice actor. You lose the experience if you have a different voice actor to replace someone. Some, I think, characters can be voice acted thoroughly by a lot of people, and some characters can only be well acted by very few people. And if you just can't get your hands on somebody who can actually do it well, that can be a real bummer. But you still have better odds than if you only have a single person, a single actor, and if they don't want to do it, then you can't do the movie. That's fair. Dice Heiser says Open 3 is 1 week away. Baskets are installed and a quick course preview is posted for those who couldn't get in a practice round. It's been 105 and grueling. Nice. That is pretty warm. I've been feeling it here, and it has not even been high 90s. It's just kind of been super humid and hot, and it's been great. I've been liking it, but the fire ants don't make it better. So 105, that's pretty brutal. It's definitely too bad that California is more than a couple hours away. There's no traveling to play that tournament. But Dice hosting the tournament would be a lot of fun. Awesome. Steph sent a gold coin for 10 jewels. What a legend. He's always coming up with something. What an awesome guy. Shout out Steph for being a legend. Doc says they can play with so many different ideas that they just can't afford to do in a live action movie. Of course, the effects are always easier to do and they can do more. Yeah, I would say there is something to say. I think this is a reason that there was a lot of interest in what's it called? Doc, you'll probably be able to remind me of this. The What If, that's what it is, the What If. The Marvel What If. I don't know that it ended up being super popular ultimately, but I do think that initially there was a ton of interest because they're like, I've always wanted to see, or I've been curious, or yeah, I want to see this kind of twist on things. Yes, there's a lot of latitude that you can have with that, but I think ultimately people tend to want live action. They appreciate live action. As much as you can do something more unique and more, in some sense, interesting with animation than you can do in live action. You get a heavier impact in live action when something is done that's really cool because it's live action versus just an animation. So there really is a trade-off, and I think generally speaking, most people are going to say, I want to see it in live action. And if that's impossible, then maybe I'll really settle for or enjoy the animated, but they want to see it in live action. That's the ultimate, generally speaking. I know that there are a lot of people who do prefer animated, but I think most people are hoping and wanting to watch it live action, not live. Let's see. Doc says dirty leg Brad versus clean leg Brad. Okay, got it. That was DLB versus CLB. Totally missed it. Doc says, Brad, if really a Spider-Man fan, I suggest checking out the Spider-Man animated series from the 90s. Was kid-friendly, but also wrote for the teens and adults watching. I've seen a little bit, handful here and there. I actually watched some. I borrowed a stack of VHS. Goodness gracious. This is going to be interesting. From the family who leased the hunting property to my grandpa, my family, that we hunted on. I borrowed a stack of VHS, and it was a lot of like Superman, like Tarzan, George of the Jungle type movies, and some Spider-Man. So I have watched a fair amount of animated Spider-Man, not a ton, but a fair amount of animated Spider-Man. But generally speaking, for me, it was the Spider-Man 1 video game with Tobey Maguire and Bruce Campbell narrating. It was Spider-Man, the video game, that got me. It just completely got me. I watched the movies later after having played the game. I watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, and of course, at that point, I was already primed to really enjoy Spider-Man, and I just absolutely loved the films. And then they took the step in The Amazing Spider-Man toward just an elevated cinematography and special effects that overall was extremely enjoyable. And then with the Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man's just next level. Not everything was perfect, but next level in terms of action and effects and color and everything. So I've just been loving the Spider-Man movies. Again, I lean live action heavily. I've appreciated a lot of animated movies in my life for sure, but when you're doing action, I want to see live action. All right. Steph says, "What's up? I want to see Odyssey." There you go. Dice says, "Come on, Brad. I'm counting on you being there for your star power. The tournament will get 5 to 10 additional views if you participate. I would love to generate those views for you. If only those 10 views would make it worth a, what, 2,000-mile trip across the United States? If only. Maybe if it was 15 views." Steph says, "Won't get the chance to watch the Odyssey for a week or 3. That is a little bit of time." Yeah, didn't watch the Odyssey myself. It's not on. Well, I don't tend to go to theaters to watch movies, so it was like Brand New Day is the exception of the last 2 years. But I'll probably also go to see Doomsday. All right, so we have about 19 votes, and yeah, more than half of people not that interested in going to watch Brand New Day, but everyone who is interested in seeing it, 42%, have watched it and liked it or are excited to see it. We haven't had a vote yet of, yes, I watched it, but I didn't care for it. Now, I know that there are people who definitely watched it and didn't care for it, or didn't really like love it. Maybe they were fine with it. Maybe they were like, yeah, it's, entertaining, but, didn't love it. I know they're out there, and it's a fair perspective, but it is interesting that pretty much it's either not too interested in seeing it or can't wait or already saw it and loved it. Not 50-50, but close to an even split down the middle of those two camps. Doc says, "Dice, maybe we can find another voice actor to play Brad at your tournament. Is that Home Alone kid still doing acting?" Yes, he actually is. What is he going to be in? Macaulay Culkin is what is he going to be in? Come on. Maybe it's his brother. Maybe it's his brother. I just caught a glimpse and was just like, wait a second, no way. Okay, it must be his brother. It must be his brother. Let's see. What is his name? Now, it's funny that you just brought this to my mind. Come on. My laptop is being so slow right now. Okay, well, never mind. But I do believe that his brother is in some upcoming larger movies. And I know that he's been in a few films and a couple that were pretty successful recently. What did he win? Did he win an Oscar? I can't remember what he won. But I just saw him. I don't know if it was at a trailer in the theater or for a trailer something else that I saw. But I was like, no way. So I can't remember. I just can't remember right now. But it's funny that you bring it up. Maybe you can get his brother. Dice says, "If I'm dressing up and going to Brad's, I'm going to make it way more worth it. I'm thinking we haunt his home." Good luck with that one. I have a shotgun. Steph says, "We should just get his wife to nice all the good shots rather than a Brad voiceover." Wow, you guys are evil. Sandy Peak Woodcraft says, "How you doing, bro? It's been a long time since I've lined up with a live stream. Welcome back. Doing well. Got married. Been busy. And a lot of tournaments kind of leading up to the last couple of months. And then now it's been kind of more like local league stuff. Moved to South Carolina and been really appreciating and leaning into the local courses here. Got an Infinite Disc sponsorship, and that's been fantastic. I have a bunch of discs from them because I get a lot of gift card credit, which has been great. Yeah, life's been good. Also watched Brand New Day yesterday. Steph says, "Hey, we didn't forget you." Oh gosh, I can barely read that. But yes, I decided that I would wash my legs the other day. It was anticlimactic. You guys really amped it up to be fantastic. Dice says, I'll just grab some random tape. I'll just grab some random tape a pic of Brad on his face and have clips of Brad's voice saying random things as the guy secures last place with horrible play. Wow. Wow. Well, hey, maybe he'll win the thing, and then you'll have to crown me the champion, and I get the credit. So I think this gamble is worth it. I think this is worth it. Doc says, Brad, that sounds like it might be the Spider-Man and Friends. The 90s one is a lot better, in my opinion. I don't know. I have no idea. It was a long time ago. Doc says, did the animated movies you watched have Firestarter and Iceman? Oh gosh, I don't know. I was 11. Probably not. I don't think so. I don't think so. You should rent the audio of his stomach growling last week. Hey, that was not my fault. First of all, of course, I was hungry. It was an involuntary noise. But unbeknownst to me, Mrs. Birdietime was baking monkey bread, and as much as I didn't notice, I think my body knew what was happening and was excited and very, very hyped for that. So I think that's what happened. That's why the stomach was growling, and I took down a lot of that monkey bread. That was fantastic. So good. Okay, I don't know if things are still kind of rough. I can see in the chat that chat has disconnected and reconnected several times. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm sorry. Maybe that's why my laptop was slowed down, but sorry. That's probably pretty annoying if that's affecting you, but it looks like we're good right now. Everything seems to be fine. Let's see. Odd Golf says, Brad, what is your favorite genre of movies? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've read another comment. Doc says, Dice, he really did not get the joke. I know Home Alone kid has acted since and is still acting, also going to be in Fallout. That's his brother. That is his brother. That's not Macaulay Culkin. That is his brother that's acting. But yes, that was Fallout. Thank you for reminding me of that. That is what I was reaching for. I was like, I just saw that he's going to be in something. It's Fallout. Let's see. Odd Golf says, Brad, what's your favorite genre of movies? Favorite genre? I would say that's really hard because so many genres have so many bad examples within the genre. Probably just for Lord of the Rings, I would probably have to say fantasy. I think fantasy is the genre that takes it. I definitely enjoy the kind of like medieval leaning, sword fighting and epic battles, archery, the works. I definitely really, really enjoy it. Yeah, probably fantasy would be my pick. I do enjoy to a certain extent superhero movies quite a bit, but not every single one, not all of Marvel. I enjoyed a few of the DC movies a lot, and then I also felt like they completely crashed and burned, worse than Marvel on several of them. So, yeah, it's kind of a tough call. I really, really liked Arrow, the show, Oliver Queen, for the first couple of seasons, but it just at some point I just stopped having enough interest to outweigh the time that I spent watching. Plus, when you have to watch Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow and The Flash, which I enjoyed some of The Flash too, but when you have to watch 4 different shows to keep up with the episode that you're watching, it gets too much. Just too much. And I think that's the kind of MCU problem as well. As for a lot of people, it's just too much. And if you can't catch up, or if you haven't been catching up, then you're just like, I'm out. I can't. So I would say probably fantasy is the top, and then the superhero genre is probably close to second. Yeah. Just a good old action movie. Liam Neeson, Gerard Butler, Jason Statham. Action comedy is probably my real number 2 favorite genre. The good action comedy movie really can knock it out of the park. But there are a lot of crappy ones, so no pun intended. So it's definitely just a little bit hit or miss. But probably I would say, yeah, fantasy, action comedy, and then superhero, which I do count as a separate genre than like fantasy or sci-fi. I think it's its own thing. Yeah. do. Sandy says, sounds like you've had a full schedule. I would say so. It's been a very busy 8 months. The last 8 months have been quite busy in a very good way, but it's just the nature of things. So certain elements of the channel, my long form videos have slowed down a lot, and I'm just starting to hopefully reignite and get back into the normal pattern of things with long form. But I've been keeping up with the YouTube Shorts and the live streams, keeping up with as much as I can, doing some competitive disc golf here and there when I'm able to. But I'm looking forward to later in the year. There should be some really cool tournaments around Myrtle Beach. So I'd love to get some footage of some MPO competition in Myrtle Beach area in the next year. It'll be a little bit of time before that happens, but I'm excited. Dice says, but the house smells much better since you washed your legs. It was you, the smell, your legs to be precise. Oh gosh. I haven't noticed that. Dude just says 1105 rated for Isaac. Crazy. Good stuff, Isaac. Shout out Isaac Robinson. The man has been so good. So happy to hear of an 1100 rated round. Goodness. Also, I'm way behind in the chat. I'm gonna start catching up. All right, I'll have to skip a few things. Dice says he was 11, Doc. You expect him to remember things from 2 years ago? Wow. Yeah. 19 years ago. Doc says, Dude, you're here now, so I guess we'll have to talk about disc golf. Yeah, we haven't been talking disc golf at all. Really not at all. The monkey bread looked amazing. Monkey bread was fantastic. Doc says, what is monkey bread? Yeah, that's the problem. Doc said in Discord, I posted a picture of the monkey bread and I was like, this is what I had. This is why my stomach was growling. And Doc was like, well, I'm not a bread guy. And I'm like, whoa. Like, just dismissing monkey bread as just like fitting into the category of bread, like that's a huge mistake. It's not the same thing. It's a dessert. It's delightful. It's a buzz with a saw blade insert in the rim. Plastic, not real. Interesting. Doc says bread was so mad at me I called it a cake. It is specifically what it is. Like a monkey bread is not bread. It's not cake. Like it's monkey bread. It is what it is. It's like, it's sort of like, because yeah, an Oreo is a cookie, but it's sort of like, calling an Oreo cookie. It's like, well, it's really, you have like fresh baked homemade cookies and you have an Oreo and you have vanilla wafers. Like these are very different things. So it is what it is. Like an Oreo is an Oreo. So like monkey bread is its own thing. It's distinct. There's a bad analogy, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. It's very much distinct. All right, I think I more caught up to the chat a little bit. It was mostly Dujit that actually jumped in and started talking and got me behind. Dujit says, got a duo Wraith and another reactor for my birthday. Ooh, that's awesome. Also, 2 VIP Sunday tickets for Idlewild. Heck yeah, dude. That's going to be a lot of fun. Dujit says, haven't tried the Wraith out yet. Dice says, Sword and Sorcery. Is that a specific movie or a genre? Dude just says more of an action movie or historical movie guy. I do like a loosely historical action movie. Quite a bit. Dude just says got a couple friends who really liked Marvel though. Excuse me. Yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like at the beginning of Marvel, like it seemed like everybody was a Marvel fan, and I feel like now a lot of the original Marvel fans are like just tired of it, but a lot of people have become, Marvel fans since. I don't know if that's true, if that's just my perception, but it kind of feels like that. I feel like the people who were there for the whole time up until Endgame were kind of like the hit Endgame, and they were like, ah. But the people who joined along the way have gone through Endgame and have loved everything. Again, just a thought. Don't know. Doc says, I think it's Macaulay, not Kieran on Fallout. It is Macaulay Culkin. Gosh, I keep saying that. Macaulay Culkin in Fallout. Yes. But he hasn't been in anything. He hasn't been in anything really since one movie after Home Alone. Oh, he's had a couple of things. Okay, more than I thought. More than I thought. Very like the one episode on a TV show, a couple episodes on a TV show, a lot smaller roles here and there. Hmm. Interesting. So yeah, it is him. It is him in Fallout. Yeah, I guess I was right with my initial thought process that it was him. Dice says, "Yeah, that cake that his wife made looked great." LOL. Yes, the monkey bread was great. It was fantastic. I did not need dinner that night. Uh, Dude just says the reactor was kind of what? It was the OTB Open Edition. Ooh, interesting. Doc says, "Nice dude. You remember what Uncle Doc always says? Redacted and clear discs go farther. It's just science." Doc says, "Who the heck is getting mad at someone for calling an Oreo a cookie?" It's not about getting mad. It's about the identification specifically of exactly like what it is because it doesn't fit well within the generic category. Like if you just say like I ate a cookie, do you think that someone's going to think, "Oh, you ate an Oreo?" Probably not. They're probably thinking that you had like a chocolate chip cookie or oatmeal raisin or ginger snap or snickerdoodle, whatever. They're going to think that you had what they think of as a cookie. If you had an Oreo, they're probably not thinking about an Oreo. They're probably thinking about what they would think of as a cookie. So when you say bread or cake for monkey bread, it's like, well, no, it's that's a poor categorical lumping in. It's distinct in its own category. I don't know why you're thinking that there's an element of getting mad about things here. It's about accuracy. And I think the accuracy is important when you can have it. I don't think that it's about being mad though. No, nobody was mad. There's no madness going on here, except for your uninterest in being accurate. Sandy says, "Great times rolling in. Took third place in a C tier in Southern Utah last Saturday. Nice job, nice job. What division was that in? And what kind of course is it? I've only seen one course in Utah. I think the Fort. I think it's the only coverage I've seen of Utah disc golf, and I would say probably heavily wooded is my assumption for a lot of Utah, but again, I have no idea. So what type of course was it? Was it pretty open, pretty heavily wooded, very mountainous? What was it like? Steph says Brad's slow. Took him 30 years to start washing his legs. Dice says, "Welcome to the wash." Doc says he did a lot of movies. They were kind of not mainstream. Some of them really good. Uh, Doc says, "Oh, it's Brad. Brad is the one getting mad at someone calling an Oreo cookie." No, not getting mad. I find it very fascinating that you would suggest that I'm getting mad about things. I don't think that any of you have ever seen me mad in any capacity. The closest thing is probably a mistake in a tournament where you catch about 2 seconds of me being frustrated. That's probably the closest thing that you haven't seen me getting mad. Dice says Brad is obsessed with the taxonomy of baked goods. Who can explain it? And look at that. Mama's Minecraft says an Oreo is an Oreo. Facts. Look at that. That was pretty quick. That was a pretty quick turnaround. Yeah, I think a lot of people who are rational and clear-minded, logical adults will understand what I'm talking about. And Doc and Dice will be very confused. Sandy says MA2. Nice. Yeah, that's a solid third place in MA2. That's awesome. Doc says also, oh, she already heard about this. I already tattled on you. Don't worry. Also, if wife hears about it, please tell her I thought one, it was a cake, and two, didn't know what monkey bread was. So I heard bread and just said I don't eat many types of bread besides just regular bread. She knows exactly what happened. I showed her your offensive comment, and she added it to the list. Yeah, the growing, very lengthy list that she has. Yeah, and there's a good and a bad side of the list, and the bad side of the list is, well, we're gonna need some more paper. That's all I'm gonna say. Steph says, with these rationale of cookies and cakes, I feel like you should go into politics. No, definitely not politically inclined. I care too much about the truth to be politically inclined. Just my personal thought process. But maybe you can make a bit of an argument for I don't know, the stereotype of a lawyer. Not what lawyers actually do, but the stereotype of a lawyer where you kind of parse out actual details and argue, which is not what actually happens in the courtroom. I feel like lawyers are not very intelligent in courtrooms. But anyway, getting off topic. Doc says, what if it's deep fried? Doc says, Dice, he watched a lot of Paula Deen movies on VHS when he was young, 3 years ago at 11. Paula Deen. No. I'm trying to think. I've maybe seen her on TV when I was growing up. What years would that be? Yeah, probably. I probably caught a handful of glimpses on TV, growing up. But no, not the source of any of my inspiration whatsoever. Steph says, then it's a deep fried Oreo. I've never had a deep fried Oreo. I don't know if I'm missing out or if I'm just staying safe. I think I'm just staying safe. Dice says, wow, I've never seen Bradley crash out like this. He's raging. No, you've never seen me play Rainbow Six Siege. You don't know rage. Sandy says, Parawan Canyon near Cedar City. Moderately wooded, mostly cedar and juniper. Nice. That's really cool. Yeah, congrats again for taking a solid top 3. That's awesome. Oh, pretty much all sub 30 feet trees and vegetation. Okay, gotcha. Excuse me. Doc says Dice done got tattled on. Oh, it wasn't Dice. Hopefully the discs I sent her on the middle list, not good or bad. Well, the discs that you sent go on the good side. So far they're helping quite a bit, but they won't last forever. Excuse me. Doc says, chat, speaking of politics, anyone here read President's Vampire? No. I do think I heard about that, but no. Dude just says, also got a wood disc organizer for my extras, so I think that means I made it big time in Doc's eyes. Nice, that's really fun, that's cool. Having that organization is really convenient. It's really nice. I'm just grateful that this was given to me. Anything similar where you're just able to get discs stored and somewhat, displayable, or maybe display is the wrong word, but accessible and stored at the same time is just so good. Paula Deen is the I Love Butter woman. I don't. That's outside my reach. Dude, just a superstar. Nice. Dude just says, also found that a beefy Roadrunner is absolutely money for turnovers. Yeah. I think that's classic, like Bradley Williams, Calvin Heimberg, Innova, like longer time Innova, is that they'll say like the Roadrunner is a lifetime disc in the bag. And I've seen that Calvin say that recently, where he's like, if you're a beginner, like the Roadrunner will be a good disc for you. It'll go pretty far, but it'll be a lifetime disc in the bag as you get better and better, and it gets flippier and flippier. It just keeps changing what it's going to do. Is it going to be a turnover disc? Is it going to be a roller disc? It's just going to be useful. And I think that is true. I don't know if he's throwing and bagging Roadrunners all the time, but he and Bradley Williams have thrown Roadrunners very successfully. It was funny. I watched Calvin film a kind of like a little promo chunk for the Rolo, and he did all air shots. He just threw a bunch of hyzer flips with the Rolos and said, "Yeah, these are pretty great." It was very funny to me. He did not throw a single roller that I saw. I don't know if it's because he has just too much power and the Rolo just wouldn't actually roll well for him, or what the exact nature of it was, but he threw them really nicely as hyzer flip discs. It was pretty fun to watch. Doc says, I'll have to send the Mrs. Birdietime some more dragons. That might help. Or you could just say nice things instead, but whatever. Doc says, dude, that'll be interested, or will be interested to hear how you chuck that. Steph says hi again. Interesting. Dice says just got a Hunterbird SS, which is a Roadrunner. Seems cool so far. Is that a correct spelling, Hunterbird, or is that supposed to be Thunderbird? No, it is. It is a Hunterbird. Wait, it is the Thunderbird. I think I get it. It is an intentional differentiation of spelling for the Thunderbird from Foundation. Got it. Now I see the picture. Okay. The picture was really small, so I couldn't tell. Now it's blown up and I can see it. So if you haven't seen this, I recommend looking up the Hunterbird. So Hunterbird SS, which is pretty much a Roadrunner. Interesting. I wouldn't assume that it would be really as flippy as the Roadrunner, but I can see it being kind of close. Very interesting. Doc says, shoot, hey, Brad, try the Neptune discs as soon as you can. Discount disc running a sale, $10, half off. Other 3 Neptune discs on sale. I'll try it out, but I'm in no rush. I get my discs free from Infinite. So I am not interested in purchasing discs at any other location. Discount discs included, it could be $2, but that's $2 more than I'll pay for gift cards covering my entire purchase and shipping through Infinite. So I'm very, 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 very unlikely to make an actual purchase of a disc and actually spend money for it now. With my Infinite Discs sponsorship, it's just so easy and convenient to just grab things with my Infinite credit. So that's where I lean. I appreciate you being on the lookout, but I am not going to just buy for the sake of buying a disc. Like, I'm going to be getting channel beneficial discs or buying, for somebody that I can give them a disc. Doc says, is Hunterbird the guy from Foundation? Yeah, I figured that out after I started talking about it. Dude just says, anyone tried the Mojave from Elevation? Love their jawbreaker-ish plastic. Interesting. I have not. I have not tried the Mojave. Dude just says, I think Hunterbird is Foundation. Dice says, yes, Hunterbird OS, and SS. Got the whole collection. Nice. He snagged them all. There you go. All 3. You got the trilogy. Dude just says, I think it's just a rebrand of Roadrunner, like a different stamp. Yeah, I think it's a rebrand of the Thunderbird with different stamps. But this is what it says. This is the description. The Thunderbird comes from strong bloodlines, the stability of a T-bird, the speed of a Valkyrie, a seasoned Firebird with less fade. So it is a Thunderbird that is now a Hunterbird with Foundation. But with the SS, could be much flippier, in line with a Roadrunner. More so. So is it like actually a Roadrunner? A Thunderbird, Firebird, Roadrunner with Foundation stamps. So it's actually straight up an actual Roadrunner. It's just called a Hunterbird SS. It is, yep, just got it. So there is no Thunderbird SS that they put the stamp on. They straight up took 3 different discs and called them the SS OS and the Hunterbird. I caught up now. It took me a little bit. Thank you, Dice, for clarifying that. Steph says, I'm headed back to OBX North Carolina in 2 weeks and I get to play a sick course there, and I get their course discs, and they always turn out to be sick. That's awesome. That's really awesome. So you're going to be getting some new discs from there. That's pretty cool. Sandy says, the lifetime discs for me are the MVP Fission Photon and the Discraft Jawbreaker ESP Cicada. Ooh. Yeah, I can see that for the Cicada in particular. The Photon, let's see. The Photon is pretty overstable, isn't it? But you said the Fission Photon. Is that more flippy? Am I thinking of the right disc? Because I think that I have a Photon. Oh, maybe not. Photon. What do I have? I have... Yeah, it is a Photon. But this thing is the beefcake of all beefcakes. Like, this thing... This is 11.5, -1, 2.5. This thing is like an 11.503. Like this thing is just insanely beefy. I don't know why, but it is. I have never gotten this thing to drift an inch. It is wildly overstable. So it's interesting. Mine flies so overstable that I would have said the Photon would be just a very overstable disc, not a -1, 2.5, which is, it's still overstable, but not the kind of flight that I was expecting to see based on what I've thrown. Very different. Very interesting. Doc says, "Oh, you're getting them for free? Sorry, I thought you were just getting a discount." Well, I have a discount and I get gift cards. So I'm getting a discount on how free I get them, which is really nice. Sandy says, also the glow hex. Oh, yes, yes. I do also have a glow hex. I think it's this one. Yes, the Total Eclipse Hex. And this one actually glows a really nice bright blue. Do I have it? Nah. I have a flashlight, a UV flashlight somewhere. Packed away still, probably. Devin says, you don't happen to have a Plasma Mayhem, do you? I don't have a Mayhem. A friend of mine in Florida had a Mayhem. I've thrown it once or twice. I don't have one, especially not in plasma plastic. No. I might have a Plasma, Insanity. Yes, I have a Plasma Insanity. I could not think of Insanity. I was thinking Valkyrie. Just stuck in my mind. But no, do not have a Plasma Mayhem. Doc says, Dice Brad Dunn went big. Infinite discs, LOL. Yeah, not that big. Not like Drew Gibson big, but it's been great. It's been great. I mean, I've got a stack of discs here. Didn't pay a cent for any of them, and I got to just test them out. Got the Nerf discs for free instead of what, $40 at my local shop. No problem with my local store or anything like that, but they're not cheap. So it's really nice to get that discount and to get the gift cards covering it. Steph says, Brad gets discs off our hard work in the comments. The man is holding us down, fellas. Presumably, I turn around and give you disc golf content that you want, so you're actually working for yourself if you want to invest in the future of what you get to see. Or if you want to make money, then you're definitely not doing it the right way. You need to make content yourself. Yeah. Dude says, never mind, the Mojave is from Meridian discs. Oh, interesting. I actually have thrown proportionally a high percentage of Meridian's discs because I've thrown the Ravine, the Current, and the Tundra. And I think I only have like 5 discs. So pretty much, the majority of them. Doc says, hope you have fun in my home state, Steph. Steph says, you still there? Yeah, Doc is still in North Carolina. Yep. Dude just says, sign up for my first A tier, $150 for 2 jerseys, 3 discs, and an umbrella. I'd say it's a pretty decent deal. It depends on how nice the jerseys are. I've gotten some jerseys where I'm like, I'll rewear this. And I've gotten a few jerseys where like, I'm never going to wear it ever. So that's disappointing when you just don't even care enough about the jersey to wear it again. Plus, I'm not wearing it, but I'm normally wearing Infinite apparel. When I compete, I have to wear Infinite apparel. So I couldn't even really just take a jersey and wear it in competition. I could wear it for a live stream or a video if I wanted to, but I wouldn't be like I'd be wearing Infinite almost all the time. But for an amateur, 2 jerseys, if they're nice, and 3 discs, an umbrella, and you get to play, 3 rounds? That's not bad. That's not bad. 150 is about the most that I would look at to be spending on an A tier. But not terrible, for sure. For sure. Doc says, gotta go. Dice, Duja, everyone be well. Thanks for swinging by, Doc. Enjoy 4 a.m. Sandy says, the proton and the neutron plastics are much more overstable. Yeah, I think I have the proton photon, I believe. Is that right? Oh, it doesn't say the plastic type on here. I just don't recall, but I don't think this is the Neutron, but maybe it is the Neutron. You never know. Sometimes, like, I think I have a Neutron trail, and not the beefiest thing ever. But not super flippy. Sanya says, at least the photon mold. Okay, that makes sense. Steph says, last few weekends midstream, I get the notification that you just posted a short. I got you covered on the Saturday, Sunday thing. No worries. Yeah, that is interesting. So I know that it doesn't always notify immediately when I post. Today I posted scheduled for 6:55 because I was actually working on editing leading right up to doing the live stream. So I scheduled it and then set up a stream and pretty much, got ready to jump into the live stream. So I'm not surprised that it popped up during the stream instead of, at 6:55. I want to say that the last couple of weeks I've probably posted my birdie of the day between 6 and 7 p.m. instead of 5:30 like I traditionally will do. But yeah, I'm interested. It seems like sometimes you've left a comment within like 20 minutes. But I always wonder if, when you leave a comment 2 hours after a video comes out, if you like got a notification 2 hours after the video came out and then immediately went and left a comment on it. I don't know how it works. YouTube is weird. I would think what they would do is immediately notify everybody the instant that a video comes out to drive engagement, but I'm not YouTube. I'm not making their decisions for them. It just is what it is, I suppose. I had somebody I was playing in League and I had like passed another card and the guy was like, Brad, did you just post a video like 5 seconds ago while we're competing? And I was like, no, I scheduled it and the notification just came up after the fact. But it is very interesting when those things will kind of go off. Dice says to Doc, we love you and we'll never forget you. I could maybe forget Doc, but it would take a while. He's pretty interesting. Let's see. Easton says, yo, I'm back. Thanks for hopping on, Easton. Appreciate you swinging through. Did you vote in the poll? We've got about 50% of people that really aren't interested in watching Brand New Day, which, is pretty understandable. Not everybody is like, oh, a movie's out. I'm going to go watch it in theaters. But it's a bigger movie. It's pretty successful. And then just under half of people are going to watch it and are excited or liked it. And just a few people, it might actually just be, one vote, watched it and didn't care for it, which there are a handful of people definitely who watched it and didn't care for it. I'm interested to kind of know what the perspective is. If, you went and watched Brand New Day and you're like, it was okay, wasn't great. I'm just interested because I'm curious if it kind of comes from Marvel MCU generic fatigue where there's just so much Marvel. Did you feel like it wasn't enough of just a Spider-Man movie? Was it too much of an MCU movie? I feel like I went into it looking for a Spider-Man movie and liked it that way. But I'm also not caught up in everything. I wasn't looking for everything Doomsday connected. I was just doing my best to just enjoy the Spider-Man movie, and I liked it just like that. But everybody's got a different opinion, different perspective. Just curious, very curious. Dude says, I think the jerseys are from Cardinal jerseys, which is where I usually order jerseys from. They're usually like 50. So yeah, that's not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I have heard of Cardinal being pretty good. I just about submitted an application to be on their team, but it really would have been a little difficult. I would have had to like use, what are those things called, like a cricket, and like iron on a stamp, like an infinite stamp onto a Cardinal jersey. It gets a little bit complicated. As far as just kind of having a jersey to wear in a competition, to be sponsored by both. So being sponsored by Infinite, it's nice to just get an Infinite jersey. However, I can see the appeal of Cardinal. I think that they're, as far as I know, a good company and doing a good job with their products. They do sound a little bit expensive, but hey, if you're getting 2 of those during or for your A tier, part of the players pack, and you get to play, and you get a few other discs and an umbrella, not bad. East, Dude says they take like a month to come in. That is annoying. So yeah, getting it just at your A tier, that's great. Easton says, I've been waiting since last Sunday. Well, welcome back. Appreciate you waiting and hanging out, or jumping back in to hang out with us. I have technically also been waiting to live stream since last Sunday. But again, if you saw it earlier, I can't fully announce a competition that I have coming up. But in the next couple of days, I will officially announce it. And there will be some live streaming during the week coming soon. So if you're interested in that, that's on the horizon. So just shout out to what's coming. Mom as Minecraft says, good night, Doc. Sandy says, Proton Plastic is great once it beats in, but it takes a long time unless you're looking for overstability. Gotcha. Yeah. There are definitely some discs where I'm like, I would love this to forever be overstable. And there's some where I'm like, okay, I hope this beats in a little bit. I'd love to get just a little more push out of it, a little more flight before the fade. So I can see that being a hope or a worthwhile process to wait for. There are others, though, like the Respecti, which is a 7212. By the way, I bag a Respecti, have for a while. Very useful, very good utility disc. But I lost it for almost a year. Tried to replace it, but I got the wrong plastic. It did not work. And have now replaced it with the same plastic, I think the correct plastic. And I'm excited to have a backup, a spare, and just in case, just in case. But I do love the Respecti. It's just so reliable. You know exactly what it's going to do. Exactly. Dude says, I think the CEO or at least lead marketing guy of Cardinal is playing in it. So, oh, that's cool. Ella says, what's up? Some goodish news this week. I'm going to launch my disc golf UK comparison site. Ooh, heck yeah. So I'm guessing this is, I think what we were talking about last week. This will kind of take price comparison for discs across the UK. And you like type in a disc and it will pop up all of the results for the prices and tell you where's the cheapest. Is that right? Ella says, just checked on my site. Respecti isn't in UK stores. Sad. Yeah, it is a Prodiscus disc, and I believe it is Sweden. I believe. Oh, Finland. Sorry, Finland. Yeah, so I'm not as surprised that it's not sold in the UK. Sometimes with the like Finland produced or Sweden produced discs, you're not getting as much accessibility where they're kind of sold and shipped from the country. So not too surprised. But it is a kind of offbeat disc that isn't necessarily one I just recommend to any and everybody. It's very, very useful for me. I love it, but it is not glidey and is super overstable. So if that's what you're looking for, then it's probably what you need. But if not going to get you your max distance probably. Ralph says, I'd go see the Jamaican superhero Spider-Man. Nice. Ellis says, very overstable. I have a flight sim on there too for each mold. Oh, that's really cool. You'll definitely have to, let's see, I don't think you can technically drop links in the chat. You'll have to drop a link in the Discord so we can check that out. Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. Really, really awesome. Do you think it would be adaptable for other countries, or would you have to build from the ground up to create your kind of your search engine, I guess, in other countries? I don't know how it works. I'm not a programmer. Alice says, yeah, that's okay. I can drop the link in when it's live. Heck yeah. Awesome. That'll be really cool to check out. That's really awesome. Could adapt for other countries, but would take a bit of work, of course. Okay. Yeah. So not starting from scratch, but kind of making some big adjustments to, again, I'm speaking very generically and incorrectly, but like shift it over from the focus of the UK to another country. Just interested. Yeah. Just curious and looking forward to kind of poking it a little bit, seeing what it does. That's a really cool tool. So that's awesome that you made that, or that you're wrapping up finishing touches on it. That's really awesome. Let's see. Dude says competition. Yes. If you want more details, wait a couple of days, or you can check out Disc Respect on Instagram. He's kind of started to leak a bit of a glimpse of what things are going to look like. But yes, there is a competition that I'm going to be getting into soon, in just over a week, and there is a cash prize. So I'm very excited for it. I'm going to take you guys along with me and see if we can take that prize for the sake of Taco Bell. Elle says, I can send it personally if you like, but that's enough plugging for now. Yeah. Either way, I would be interested. I'm sure you can just drop it. And there's only 20 of us in the Discord, and I'm sure that a couple of us would love to just like I said, poke it and see what it does, how it works. I'm trying to recall if we know if we have any Discord members from the UK. But we'll see. We'll see. It'll be very cool to test it out. But yeah, it's up to you if you want to just send me a Discord message, or if you want to post it in the clubhouse. Yeah, it's whatever. Dude just says, is it one of those racing to a certain distance type things? It is a type thing of that sort, yes. Yes. But I'm actually not allowed to give details for another day. So I will tell you guys very soon. But yep, it's something along those lines. I've been training for it. I've been like specifically practicing and actually on a specific hole on a specific spot. And the fire ants in that area are killer. So my sleep has not been the best. My ankles have been very itchy. Trying not to scratch like crazy. I've even gotten better anti-itch cream thanks to Mrs. Birdietime taking care of me. It's helping, but I can't always make it 8 hours through the night without ankles getting just on fire. Let's see. Dude just says if you had a US version, I'd totally use it. Yeah. It sounds very useful and fascinating. It's kind of like, infinite discs, the way that they function, but of course beyond the limitation of being the store of infinite discs, because they have the flight path in a sense, simulated for you, just a photo, just a picture of it. And then of course they sell the disc. But of course, they're only that single individual retailer. They don't have information of other retailers or prices. So, of course, it's very different. Ellis says, yes, either way should be useful. Even if you want to see the flight of a mold without going onto the internet, it should give you a rough idea. Oh, that's cool. So it's a complete offline function. I like that too. That's really great. That's a really great feature. Steph just watched my latest birdie of the day. It says inches from perfect. Yes, that is correct. Yes, I actually threw a second shot on that hole, and again was a couple inches from perfect. But I thought it was really great, but I caught a tree later after missing that tree. Ella says planning to go and play on Wednesday. Hope that goes well. Enjoy the course. That's awesome. I will be out between practice and playing with some local players that I've gotten interested in the sport. I'm planning to go out probably 4 times this week just to get on the course, to get some training. But I probably will only play 1 full round of disc golf. Steph says, sorry, I had to go check out a video short. Yeah, I know. I appreciate the view. Appreciate it. Dujet says, I'm going to head out. See ya. All right, Dujet. Peace out. Oh, real quick for Dujet, random disc of the stream. Ugh. I wasn't trying to look. I was trying to reach up. Let's go for this one. Ooh, this one is a curl. I think this is a curl. Founders Plastic. Lone Star. I believe that it is a curl. My buddy Blaze gave this to me, and I don't recall who signed it. Jeremy somebody, but it's a Tortoise Run 23rd annual Southwest Florida Open. Yes, it is a curl. That is correct. So yeah, random disc of the stream. It's a curl. It's a pretty fun disc. Pretty fun. I didn't mean to look at the disc, so I actually changed what disc I was going to grab. Moved it over. Steph says, try washing your legs. The itching will subside. Well, first of all, it's all ankle. And I always wash my ankles and feet, period, no matter what. And yeah, it's not why. it's itchy. Fire ant bites and like poison ivy and stuff like that are very different. Very different. Don Kelly says, hi, everybody. Thanks for hopping on. How's the Zona OS working for you? Ellis says, thanks, Dude. Tri-Discs exist for the US, but they lacked the new retailers for the UK, which is why I made the tool. Oh, nice. So you're kind of improving on an available resource and making it your own. That's really cool. Ellis says, 4 times. Wow. Yeah, I'll definitely be out there. Skip today, but yeah, pretty much every weekday if I can get out and it's not pouring rain. I'm sure for Doc's sake, I'll have to try out the Nerf discs in the rain because he keeps bugging me about it. So I'll have to be able to give him an answer of yes or no. They fly great, or I throw them in the rain. It's great, whatever. But man, I almost, if you weren't here early in the stream, almost aced with the Nerf driver. Pure hyzer, slammed in the chains, but the chains just rebounded the Nerf disc out. Like they didn't hardly move at all. The disc just bashed the chains and popped out straight away. The chains are just too heavy. These things are too light. Chains are too heavy. Just bounced off. I had 2 witnesses too. They couldn't believe it, but I was like, it's the curse of the Nerf. It's what they do. But it was a lot of fun. They're fun discs. I enjoy them. Let's see. Ralph says, sweet. Ellis's Lone Star discs curl. I'm using my tool to look up discs as you talk about them. That's awesome. Yes, the curl. I believe it's something along the lines of like an 11.5 -1.1, something like that. I believe it's supposed to be neutral to understable. Steph says, hey, Texas disc. Nice. Yes, it is. Texas, the Lone Star discs. Heck yeah. I don't have too many, but my friend Blaze, when we were both in Florida playing a lot of disc golf together, he's actually on the channel several times, and I probably have about 20 discs from him, maybe 15, but I have a curl, a tumbleweed. Here, let me look at them. I'll grab a few. 1 second. Getting thirsty and a little bit hungry. You're probably going to hear the stomach rumbling soon. So I got a tumbleweed, I got the curl, and let's see. I know I have one more up here. Yes, this is a Wrangler, growler. This is a growler. I know they have a Wrangler, but this is a growler. Pretty flippy. Glow disc, as you can probably tell. This is a really fun glow disc to watch fly. It's awesome. And I have a Tex, but that is in the car. I had that on the course the other day. It's in Mrs. Birdietime's bag of discs, and I let a new player who's played for 2 months test it out, and he threw it pretty well. Like threw it really well, 240 feet. Like I was impressed. Alice says 9 for -2.2 for the curl. Okay, so generally speaking, what I was thinking of that kind of like fairway to control driver speed and an equal turn and fade, or negative to positive turn and fade. That was close to what I was thinking. But I was thinking it was faster, so 9 speed. Interesting. I appreciate you looking it up. Yeah. All right, I'm going to end the poll about Brand New Day. We have about 50% of people who, aren't interested in watching Brand New Day, and almost 50% of people who are excited or watched it and liked it. And then 1 vote for yes, but didn't care for it. I think that's a pretty good indication that if you are somewhat on the fence about Brand New Day, that people who did watch it enjoyed it, and that if they haven't watched it yet, they're pretty excited to see it. So if you're right on the fence, maybe that's a little bit of a nudge in the direction of go give it a shot and see it. You'll probably enjoy it. It'll probably be a fun movie. Of course, nothing's guaranteed. You might be a little bit disappointed by it. But that was fun little poll. Oh, we got 1 more vote at the end, and it wasn't for not interested. What was that vote for? As I ended it, it should show up what the results were real quick here. Alice says, it's okay. Flight numbers are listed on my tool, so I copied and pasted. Nice. Really convenient. Usually the results of the poll post pretty quickly. Oh well. It was probably one more vote for haven't seen it yet, just because that was the highest percentage. But all right. Let's see. I'll hang around for a few more minutes. I'm starting to get there with hunger and thirst. Had a very good dinner this afternoon. Enjoyed church this morning. Visited a. I've been there once before, but generally speaking, newer church for me that Mrs. Birdietime and I enjoyed visiting this morning. And then we had some dinner with family, some delicious food. But I got to tell you, if you're here, South Carolina, or you're Southern, some of your foods are really weird names, like porcupine meatballs, bog food. I don't understand why you're thinking name your food after like rodents, roadkill, and places where you can die from the smell, but some of it tastes really good. I can't complain about it, but occasionally I hear the name of a food down here and it just confuses me. I don't understand what the thought process is. Maybe it's not your fault, but you can end it if you want, rename it to something that makes sense. I do like monkey bread, so I guess whatever. Maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, but still, some of the food down here just has a confusing name and it tastes great, but you got some weird stuff. Some weird names. All right. Let's see. Ellis, let's try out the Nautilus. So the Neptune Discs Nautilus. I've got the flight numbers here, but I'm interested to see what the projected flight path is and what you come up with for those flight numbers. I had never heard of Neptune Discs. I never heard of the Nautilus, but I got it in my mystery box from Infinite Discs. And I'm just curious to see what you come up with for that one, because I feel like it's kind of an off the beaten path disc to an extent. And then I'll come up with one more. It is a Nautilus, Neptune Discs Nautilus, Nautilus. Yeah, Nautilus. Ralph says, who makes their discs? So if it's the Nautilus, it is Neptune Discs, which I don't know if they're straight up just the manufacturer or if they work with a manufacturer company. I'm not sure. I had just never heard of them before. So I'm very interested. Okay. We have ourselves 21% of people voted yes, and I liked it. Spider-Man Brand New Day. And I didn't get to vote. I would have voted for that as well. 28% say no, but can't wait. Only one vote for watched it, but didn't really like it. And just under half of people just not interested in watching it. Here we go. Ellis says 5502. That's what the disc says. Slightly overstable on the flight sim. I have toggle between hyzer flat and anhyzer, so that changes the flight. Okay. I was curious if it would kind of play as slightly overstable or quite overstable. So I'm interested to actually compare it to the Mint Discs Taco, because for me the Taco flies pretty overstable, but I believe it's also a 5504 or 02. Goodness gracious. Of course, none of them have the actual flight numbers. Is also a 5502. So I'm interested. Does your flight sim have an identical flight sim for the same flight numbers, or does it consider certain discs to have a different flight, even though the numbers are the same? Yes, I'm interested. Is that based on the flight numbers, whereas the same sequence of numbers will be the same flight period, or will a different disc have a different flight? Very interested. Taco is the same flight number, so the flight sim is the same on the tool. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense, especially for design. It is interesting. I think that is something that Infinite does do pretty well is that they have the reviewer suggested numbers. For instance, which there are only 3 reviews, so this is kind of a bad example, but a good example at the same time. My experience of the Mint Discs Taco versus something like the Ken Climo Bel Air, I think they're both 5502. The important numbers being 0 and 2. The Bel Air is like a dead straight disc, barely any fade, just dead straight. But the Taco, overstable. But they're basically the same flight numbers. I think that's where the user ratings come in well. The Taco here, it's again only 3 reviews, but the reviewer flight numbers are 550 2.1. It's just a tiny, fragment, but it's just a bit of an indication that the average person testing out the disc is actually experiencing it to be more overstable than the flight numbers suggest, which can add some good understanding and accuracy when you're kind of looking to purchase the disc and you're wondering if that, if that flight sim is accurate. Having the reviewer flight numbers available as well. Not that I'm suggesting features for your for your app, and if it's just purely offline, not purely, but if you essentially have all offline access, then clearly it's not like a social app where you're having interaction constantly between the user and the online version of the app, impacting things. But anyway, all just bounced around in my head. Okay, I'm behind in the chat. Ella says similar discs are the Axiom Balance. Oh, interesting. The Balance is a 5502. Oh. The Discmania Glacier, have the Glacier. The RPM Kotuku, Latitude 64 Trust, Dynamic Discs Truth. Wow, that's pretty good. You have a nice little list. Now, how deep does the rabbit hole go? Do you have any disc measurements, or is it just flight numbers that you have listed for that? Alice says, it's the same. I did think about brand specific plastics, but that is a bit of a rabbit hole. Completely fair. That's so true. That is so true. Ralph, oh gosh. Ralph Remain says, if you could use your Apple Watch, etc., to get your arm speed and the actual angles of your highs or ante flat, etc., you can get a much more accurate tool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I can see that. I'm just trying to, like, my mind is kind of going through all scenarios. Like, you're throwing on hillsides, you're throwing different shot shapes. I'm just thinking through everything. It couldn't give you like variation between grip, but it could give you a lot of data. That's true. It couldn't tell you disc data though. It couldn't tell you if you're throwing nose up or nose down. It could tell you if you are saying nose up. It could maybe tell you why. It could maybe help you indicate why, but it wouldn't be able to differentiate. Like a tech disc, it tests what the disc does, but the Apple Watch tests what your arm does. So it's very interesting. Those are different things. Those are different actions, different impacts. Maybe Tech Discs needs to have an Apple Watch connection that improves the evaluation of what you're doing. I don't know. I'm just thinking. Alice says, reviewer suggested flight numbers would be great. Not sure where I would get the data from except for Infinite. That's true. Yeah. Could just steal. Alice says, we'll add it as a ticket to look at. Nice. Okay, cool. Ralph says, I hear that it's easier to make suggestions when you don't have to do all the work. Yes. It's easy to just think about things, but at the same time, I feel like my approach tends to be think it out loud and then expect nothing. So if it's just ideation or suggested recommendations, great. Take it, think about it. If it's just conversation that's related to the topic, then if that's all it is, then great. It's fine with me. I have no expectations of I said something, therefore you are under some sort of obligation to take it seriously or react to it or anything like that. No. Sometimes something just comes to mind. It's something to share, but never would have any sort of expectation of impact or authority in any way. Of course, of course. But just interested. Just interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Al says, I didn't want to build an entire flight sim with physics, just a nice general overview of how it should fly with the numbers as they're advertised. It's funny because, for example, MVP have different flight numbers for the same mold in different plastics. That's so fascinating. That is just crazy that they do that. Alice says, can I ask what is a disc you really like in your bag but struggle to find replacements for or similar molds? I would say the Brave, and it kind of comes down to different plastics. Just like you were saying with MVP, the variation with different plastics is a little bit extreme. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a bad example. A disc that you really like in your bag but struggle to find replacements for or similar molds. Um, yeah, I guess I would say the Enigma is probably the closest thing. But okay, so similar for the Brave. I am interested in that because I rarely see the same effect of the glidey controllable um, 7-speed category. The Mighty, which is a less glidey Brave, it's one off. The Stag, the Stalker, the Sagara, and the Cicada. Interesting. So the similar recommendations is not identical flight numbers. It's close to flight numbers, right? Because the Sagara and Cicada have different flight numbers. The Mighty has different flight numbers than the Brave, even though they're like companion discs. They're right next to each other. Very interesting. The West Side Stag. I don't think I've ever thrown the Stag. Ever thrown the Stag. Dice says chili Roleno burrito. I don't. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know if that's a specific type of burrito. I don't know. Ralph says Scott Stokely's disc had the users determine the flight numbers, I think. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Ralph says the Stag comes up again. Yeah, the Stag is just one that I'm just like I obviously now I know it's similar to the Brave, but just haven't thrown it. I have no experience myself. The River close to a Brave, but feels way flippier to me. Yeah, I feel like well, it depends on the plastics, of course. But my stable Brave and a River feel pretty dissimilar. But my flippy Brave and a River probably a lot closer. Probably. There's the West Side Discs Bear. But Dice, if you didn't catch, Ellis is copying and pasting the app that he's worked on that generates the similar discs. So he's specifically looking at the suggestions from the app that you put in the disc, and it says here's similar discs, and he's kind of dropping that in for context. All right, couple more minutes, guys, and then I get to take a little bit of a late dinner break, I guess. Eat some food. I'm pretty excited. I told Mrs. Birdietime after she made the incredible monkey bread a week ago, and then baked some cookies on Thursday. I said, I don't know that I can eat another baked dessert, so you might have to just wait a few days before making another one. So I'm gonna probably actually eat something nutritious tonight over the delightful and delicious homemade desserts. But I'm starting to get there. I'm starting to get pretty hungry. Oh, I think I was saying earlier, I was saying that dinner was really good, but it was at 1:30 or 2, and haven't eaten anything since. So getting there, getting a little bit hungry, just a little bit hungry. Almost ready to eat again. Also thirsty. I don't know why I'm so thirsty right now, but now I'm thirsty. Ooh, I've got a question for all of you guys. Non-disc golf related, of course. Has anybody been getting into a new video game or playing a game that maybe it's not new, but you've been really getting into it lately? Looks like maybe we had a little issue with the chat. I don't know why the chat has said disconnected, successfully connected, probably 10 or 12 times throughout the stream. I don't know. It seems like there's been no problem with the video, but maybe you guys have been kind of stopped from leaving. Hopefully, it hasn't cut out any chats that you guys left, and I totally missed them. But if that's the case, if you commented something and I just completely ignored it, it's possible that the chat completely disconnected and didn't post your comment. So I'm just gonna throw that out there in case it happened, but don't know. Don't know. L says CS2. Yes, of course, Counter-Strike. I was never really a PC gamer, so I know that Counter-Strike really took off on PC years back, and like it's one of the bigger, longer lasting PvP games. But I don't think that I've ever played even one time. No Counter-Strike. I'm sure now it's on console, or maybe it's just Steam. Okay, maybe not. Maybe it's just Steam. Yeah. That would be the other reason I was never really a PC gamer. I can use my my laptop and play Steam games, but it's not going to handle a good like PvP. It's a little bit of a half step back from that, where it's going to handle more like games like the Talos Principle, Portal, The Forest, things like that. Let's see. Ralph says that'd be no. Brian and Teresa Hendrick says no. I could have told you that. I could have told all of you that was going to be a no. Dice says nope, haven't played a game in a while. The last game that I can confirm my parents playing, besides like a Jackbox Party game, which I don't count, that's basically an app, not a video game proper. My father played Crash Bash, the PlayStation 1 cooperative game that has a fixed angle camera perspective and a bunch of Crash Bandicoot relevant mini games that you play. And we had a blast. But that was probably 14 to 16 years ago. Yeah, maybe the last game that my father played. Could be. Dice says Pong. Ellis says, I don't think console anymore. Super fun one, Super Battle Golf, but you have to play with other people. Interesting. I have played Golf with Your Friends, which is mini golf, but you can add in. It's like you can play through the course, and some courses are very unique, like gravity switches on space station, stuff like that. Then you can optionally add in power ups and jumping, so you can jump over obstacles, which really breaks the game. You also play with friends, golf with your friends. And you can even add collisions, so you can hit your friend off of the stage and potentially like restart them from their previous shot, depending on what has happened. So I'm interested to compare that to Super Battle Golf. If my computer would work. Here we go. Okay, so this is more full fairways, like golf course. Got it. 1 to 8 player golf game on Steam. Interesting. So, Alice, would you say it's mainly Steam for you, generally speaking? Super Battle is so funny because you get power ups and can knock people over, shoot them with rockets, etc. Okay, so the golf with your friends is all about like the golf ball itself. Like you can knock your golf ball into someone else's golf ball, and then the golf balls can transform or get powers or jump. There's no people involved. So this is a fully like, instead of like the mini golf with just the golf balls, you're talking full golf course with people, and you can like attack each other and do stuff like that. An air horn that makes them go full power when putting. That's fun. Yeah, that is pretty interesting. There's a lot going on there. That's great. That sounds like a riot. There, I will say, generally speaking, I think the argument of like PC is vastly superior to console. There's something to be said about the hardware, but you take a knock in price. and also in ports. When you create a game for console, it tends to be very good, generally speaking. When you port to PC, tends to stink. Just doesn't often hit right. Very rarely is it actually a great PC port. So you have that, but what you definitely have with Steam, what you certainly have is creativity and entertainment. You get fun multiplayer games that, like Lethal Company, the Chameleon one, like you name it, the RV game, like these wonky physics-based cooperative games are just hilarious. Uh, they're just like they look so fun. They create social experiences that are, just hilarious, fantastic, funny. So to be fair, you have consoles beating that by a long shot. I think to me that's like the best benefit of PC, Steam, is the availability and creativity of the variety of games. Whereas for console, you get a limited access, basically. Dice says, I'm waiting for that new disc golf game on console. Yes, would that be Disc Golf Masters when they're done with their Steam beta and actually get it out for console? Or just generically? Oh, looks fine on PC when I watched Graybeard test it out. Okay, so I think that would be Disc Golf Masters then because it's on Steam. I never followed up with pursuing trying that out. Ellis says, yes, Disc Golf Masters is $29, a bit expensive at the moment. A little bit. Steph says, bath time done. Nice. Brian and Teresa Hendricks says, Dad says you're right. He's wondering if you still have that game. Not video games, but at least he has played VR since then. That's a good point. So I'm guessing that would be Beat Saber. And I think I would have to count VR as a video game. Now, specifically Beat Saber, it's a bit more of an arcade versus like there are like more fully experienced VR video games like Half-Life Alyx and other like puzzle solving games like that. So there are more fully fleshed out like VR video games versus the limited like experience. Not that Beat Saber is a bad game, like it's just a very like arcade style, limited breadth of experience game. But a lot of fun, a lot of fun. But that is something I did forget about. I did forget about the VR. Um, but yes, and I do still have Crash Bash, and I still have a memory card with the save files on it of what we played 15 years ago. I have the save data, so we can break that out and play it again. Yep, can happen. Dice says, I've been put off my console since they announced they're going all digital, no physical media. Yes, so I did hear that that was specifically PlayStation that was going all digital. I have not heard that Xbox is heading in that direction, that they're announcing anything like, specific, like we're going all physical. I've heard that that's Sony, but I don't know for sure that Xbox isn't thinking about it. Maybe they saw the announcements from Sony and were like, maybe we don't want to do this. But yes, I have heard that. All right. Let's see. Sandy says, gotta go. Enjoy. Thanks for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Welcome to come back in the future. Steph says, I want to make a machine that throws discs. Oh, yeah. If you haven't seen it, so I know Simon has a couple of clips with one. I think they did Maple Hill, and the machine got back-to-back aces where they calibrated it and put in a specific disc a couple of times in a row, and like back-to-back hole in one from, I think it was over 200. Like it wasn't like a really short shot. I don't know if it was a massively lengthy shot either, but it's pretty cool to launch the disc from the machine like that. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, so there's a couple clips if you haven't seen them, or if that's what you're referring to, then yeah, that would be really cool. Dice says that's the only way to get true flight numbers. Yes, almost, I would say. The only problem would be accounting for variations in rim width and flight plate and measurements and height differences, and making sure that you get the same spin rate and speed every time, because you get the same speed and a different spin rate if the whatever is like grabbing the disc, it's grabbing a different measurement of the disc, different height, different width. It could create a different RPM. So as long as you can account for that and generate and replicate the same RPM, you could get true flight numbers with something like that. That's true. That's true. Ralph says that's what they do for golf balls. Interesting. I didn't know that. That makes sense. I mean, if they do it for golf, generally speaking, disc golf is headed toward that eventually. It's just kind of roughly speaking, how it's going to work, how it works. Brian Entry Center says, awesome. I'll let him know. Yes. Crash Bash coming soon. Guys, I'll stream it. No, I'm just kidding. I can't make that promise. Alice says, stuff made here made a disc launcher a machine that launched discs at 90 miles per hour. Oh my goodness. Ralph says, translating the machine's numbers to your arm, speed, spin, etc. Now that type of interconnectedness would be really cool. You get that like tech disc Apple Watch combo to get what you do scientifically specified, and then you get the machine to launch discs and calculate true flight numbers, and then you match those together. Oh man, yeah, that would be really, really cool. That would be really awesome. All right, well, I've really enjoyed the chat, guys. I've had a great time, but I'm gonna wrap things up. I'm starving. I'm ready to eat something, so I'm gonna run out. Maybe well, not run out outside, but to the kitchen. Out of the office. But thank you. I've had a great time. Really appreciate all the comments, all the interaction. If you're thinking about it, if you haven't seen Spider-Man Brand New Day, I'll just say in general, I think if you enjoy Spider-Man and you're somewhat on the fence, I think you'll like the movie. If you've seen too much Marvel, then you might not like it as much. It might just be another one that you have to get through. But for Spider-Man's sake, I think the people who have watched the movie, generally speaking, enjoyed it. People who are watching the latest Marvel movie, maybe you can just, wait till it comes out on a streaming service. I guess maybe if you want to watch it before Doomsday, then I guess you have to kind of fit it in if you want to. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. So, generic recommendation. But hope you guys have a great one. Hope you guys enjoy your week. Dice says, goodbye, my friends. Go with God. And Alice says, enjoy your food. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Peace out. Have a good one.